Northwestern Wisconsin's diverse and extensive forests, mixed woodlands, and wetlands provide ideal habitats for white-tailed deer. That area of the state offers plenty of food, cover, and space for deer to thrive, making the area attractive for whitetail hunters. Of the 160 mass shootings since 1999, defined as at least 3 victims, none involved hunters. But on a cold November day in 2004, a shocking and tragic event unfolded that would leave a scar on the community and raise complex questions about race, justice, and self-defense. Before noon that day, Terry Willers would be temporarily paralyzed by a bullet through his lower neck and upper back, making him unable to use his rifle, the only firearm on site among the landowners. Lauren Hezebeck would be struggling with a bullet wound in his left upper arm and shoulder, ultimately surviving. Denny Drew, 55, would lie mortally wounded, shot through the lower chest, pancreas, stomach, and small intestine. He would die a day later. Mark Royt, 28, would lie dead, shot through the head while seated on his ATV. Robert Croteau, 42, would lie dead, where Vang chased him down and shot him through the heart. Joey Croteau, 20, would lie dead where Vang chased him down and shot him 4 times in the back, the last bullet striking his neck and head. Willer's daughter, Jessica, 27, and friend Al Lasky, 43, would lie dead down a trail alongside Lasky's ATV. This is Depraved Heart. The story of the Chai Vang murders. It was November 21st, 2004, a crisp autumn day in the small town of Meteor, Wisconsin. What began as a peaceful hunting trip for a group of friends turned into a nightmarish tragedy. On the weekend of the shootings, Vang went out deer hunting with 2 friends and their 2 sons in northwest Wisconsin, a region where deer hunting is particularly popular, east of Birchwood, Wisconsin, around the town of Meteor. It is believed that Vang and his friends began their day on public land, but he later went onto a private 400 acres tract of land. On Sunday, November 21st, a hunting party of about 15 people were in a cabin on this private land. Terry Willers, one of the 2 co-owners of the land, left the cabin and saw Vang sitting in a deer stand. Willers used a handheld radio to ask the people still in the cabin whether or not anyone should be in the stand. Upon receiving a response in the negative, he approached Vang and told him to leave the property and allegedly called Vang racial slurs. Vang then apologized and started moving south towards a trail through a forested area of the property. According to Terry Willers' testimony, as Bob got back on the radio and asked me where he was at, and I said, "He's heading south down on the food plot right now," I radioed into the cabin that I had a tree rat and I had chased him off. At that point, 5 of the hunters from the cabin who had heard the radio message arrived at the tree stand. Lauren Hezebeck, a surviving victim, stated, "Bob had said, I'm going to go talk to him to find out who he is, why he's there, and make sure he doesn't, knows that he's on private property and that he's not welcomed there." Denny had said to me, "This ought to be interesting. Let's go and see what's going on." We got in the back of it standing up, hanging on the rear bar. After following the directions given by Terry Willers, they proceeded to approach Vang further down the trail. Croteau then suggested making a note of his hunting license number to make a report to the DNR and, according to Hezebeck's testimony, Croteau flipped over the hunting tag on Vang's back to get his license number. The events after the confrontation are disputed. A violent altercation broke out, and 4 of the 8 victims were shot in the back. 3 of these 4 were hit by multiple rounds. Vang is believed to have fired about 20 rounds from a Saiga rifle, chambered in 7.62 by 39 millimeters. The events of the day snowballed after Vang spotted an unoccupied tree stand about 2 miles from his group's campsite. Vang pulled on a camouflage face mask and climbed up. He didn't know who owned the stand or the 80-acre property, but he could see their cabin roof from his perch. The owners, friends and business partners, Terry Willers and Bob Croteau, were in camp with 13 friends and family members, with more heading to the camp for their traditional Sunday afternoon deer drive. Around 11:15 a.m., Terry Willers spotted Vang in the usually unused tree stand and called the cabin with his radio to see who was up there. He learned that everyone was back in camp, so Willers walked to the tree stand and told Vang to come down and directed him to head east 100 yards and get off the property. Their conversation was polite, and Vang apologized. But instead of heading east through the woods as directed, Vang followed a camp trail southward. Willers followed for about 5 minutes to ensure he left. Willers then called the cabin around 11:30 a.m. to tell the group he had evicted the tree rat. The elder Croteau replied that he wanted to make sure the trespasser got the message to never return. Croteau, his son Joey Croteau, and 2 friends then rode out on the Croteau's UTV. Another followed on an ATV. But what triggered such cold, deadly rage? Trial testimony by Terry Willers and Lauren Hezebeck, as well as from Vang, who testified against his attorney's advice, described an angry, one-sided verbal confrontation when Bob Croteau arrived. What transpired based on trial testimony is as follows. The hunting party loosely surrounded Vang, while Croteau yelled. However, no one hit, kicked, or pushed Vang. Joey Croteau, however, twice blocked Vang's path when he tried leaving. Bob Croteau demanded Vang's name so he could file a trespass complaint, but Vang refused. Croteau told his son to step away and let Vang pass, and then noticed Vang's back tag holder flipped upside down on his coat's upper back. Until 2016, Wisconsin required deer hunters to display a 3.5 by 9-inch tag with a 7-digit ID number on their upper back. Croteau stepped toward Vang and flipped down the back tag. Drew and Hesebeck then read the numbers aloud as Willers drew them into the dust on the UTV's hood. Meanwhile, Joey Croteau accused Vang of giving him the bird, which Vang denied. The elder Croteau again warned Vang he would report him for trespassing and walked to his UTV to end the confrontation. Only Willers and Hezebeck kept watching Vang, who was seething with humiliation while walking away. After a 30-yard gap opened between Vang and the 6 men, Vang crouched, unslung his shouldered rifle, and flipped a quick disconnect lever to remove its scope. Vang raised his rifle in one smooth, continuous sweeping motion as he circled right, kneeled, and aimed at Willers, the group's only armed person. Vang later said, "If I don't shoot him, he would shoot me." Then, the massacre ensued. Vang's first shot missed Willers as he ran and dove for cover, but Willers landed atop his rifle and couldn't turn over before Vang's second shot hit his lower left neck, paralyzing him. Vang instantly turned toward the men on their machines and shot Roit, who hit the ground dead as his ATV, still in gear, idled forward. Vang shot Drew next as the Croteaus fled and fired 3 shots at close range while chasing Hesebeck around the UTV. His third shot flattened Hesebeck, who fell stunned and still. Assuming Hesebeck was dead, Vang raced after Bob Croteau, whose blaze orange coat made him easy to see. As he fled, Croteau called the cabin on his walkie-talkie, to tell Lasky to bring guns. Vang's first shot missed, but the second hit Croteau in the chest, instantly killing him. Willers, meanwhile, had regained feeling in his fingers and called the cabin for help. By that time, Vang was chasing Joey Croteau, who fled down a trail. Vang sprinted to cut the corner to the trail to close the gap and shot him in the lower back at about 65 yards. Vang reloaded, approached closer as Croteau struggled forward, and shot him again. Vang then closed in and shot him twice more from behind, putting the final shot into his head. After next ambushing and killing Lasky and Jessica Willers on Lasky's ATV, Vang returned to retrieve his scope and leave, thinking he had killed every witness. As he neared the site, he and Hezebek came face to face. Vang said, "You not dead yet?" and raised his rifle to shoot. He fired as Hezebek grabbed Willer's rifle with his right hand and dove for cover. Shots zipped past over Hezebek's head, though he could point but not aim the rifle because of his wounded left arm. Hezebek tried to shoot back, but when he pulled the trigger, the safety was still engaged. He dragged the unfamiliar rifle alongside his body to feel for the safety and pushed it in. He pointed it again and fired once. He then heard a slight metallic sound from Vang's rifle and realized Vang was out of bullets. Whitehurst described the standoff. Their eyes met. Neither moved. Vang had the ability to shoot, but not the bullets. Hezebek had the bullets, but not the ability. A diesel truck was now approaching from camp. Even if he had more bullets, Vang knew he had to flee. He didn't have time to silence every witness who had seen him transform from trespasser to mass murderer. Forsaking his rifle scope, Vang zigzagged into the forest. Meanwhile, although cell phone service was weak and intermittent, those in camp had summoned state police, conservation wardens, and sheriff's departments. After setting up a perimeter to prevent Vang's escape, the wardens used an airplane to search for hunters throughout the afternoon and sent in tactical units to escort them from the woods. About 5:30 p.m., with darkness deepening, Conservation Warden Jeremy Peary noticed an ATV heading west on the Surly Camp Trail toward his post at the intersection with Daejeong Road, roughly 2 miles south of the crime scene. A hunter named Walter Cieslak was driving the ATV, giving a lost polite hunter a ride. When I shined my flashlight on the passenger, I saw he was wearing camouflage and he fit our suspect's description, Peary said. I drew my gun and gave him commands to put his hands up and listen to my instructions. He cooperated. He didn't resist. His back tag was still pinned inside his jacket. We knew we had the right guy. During the trial, the jury deliberated for 3 hours and 15 minutes before convicting Vang on all 6 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of attempted first-degree murder. He is imprisoned for life at the Anamosa State Penitentiary in northeastern Iowa. The aftermath of the murders left deep wounds. The families of the victims mourned their loss, while the Hmong community grappled with the stigma and prejudice that followed. In the aftermath, James Nichols, a 28-year-old man, was sentenced to 69 years in prison for the murder of another man named Chai Vang, a 30-year-old Hmong father of 5. Nichols, who had initially claimed self-defense, was found guilty of shooting and stabbing Vang during a hunting trip. Prosecutors argued that Nichols' actions were driven by racial prejudice. The case, which revived racial tensions in northern Wisconsin, involved Nichols initially lying about his injuries and the circumstances of Vang's death. Vang, a refugee from Laos who resettled in the U.S. with his family in 2004, was discovered deceased under a log in the woods after Nichols led investigators to the body. Nichols' conviction came nearly 3 years after Chai Vang killed the 6 hunters following the confrontation about trespassing. In the years since, the community has sought healing and understanding, striving to move forward from the shadow of that dark day. The Chai Vang murders remain a poignant reminder of how quickly life can change and the profound impact of violence on a community. As community continued to heal, the story of that tragic day serves as both a lesson and a solemn reflection. Thank you for joining us for this in-depth look at this tragic and shocking story. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. Drop your comments below. If you found this documentary compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth stories from around the world. Your support helps us continue bringing important stories to light. Don't forget to ring the bell so you're always updated with our latest content. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.